So Ironlights has grown a small but substantial competitive scene with many pro players. But recently, many pros have been leaving the competitive scene and even Ironlights altogether. Hey guys, I'm Sync, and today I will be talking about why pros are leaving Ironlights. So before I start, I want to mention that all of the stuff I say here is 100% speculation only. Don't take what I say here as fact, but consider it whenever you play Ironlights. And without further ado, let's get into it. So to start, I'm going to be talking about the first reason why pros could be leaving the competitive scene, which is balance. Now, I'm sure you saw this coming the minute you clicked on this video, but there's a little more to this, so stick with me. For this example, let's imagine that there's a new first-person shooter game you found. This first-person shooter game has 3 weapons: the assault rifle, the shotgun, and the sniper. You choose the assault rifle and start playing against 2 other players, one with a sniper and one with a shotgun. This made-up first-person shooter game has some balance issues. The sniper shoots too fast and the shotgun has too much range. So, if you go in and you die to the shotgun, there's going to be a good chance that you won't blame your death on your own mistakes, but rather the balance of the game instead. So Ironlights has this same problem that I mentioned with our first-person shooter game. If a player knows that a class is too powerful, they're going to blame their loss on the game's balance, not their own mistakes. Even if they did die because of a mistake they made, it's not likely that players are going to say, "Oh, looks like I died because of my mistakes." That's not common. This is causing players to leave because of how long Ironlights has gone without balance changes. Ironlights has always been unbalanced to an extent, but never for this long, at least to my knowledge. When pros are left with no changes to unbalanced features, they grow tired and end up leaving the game or taking a break until changes are made, which is bad. Balance issues themselves are also a significant problem with pros leaving the game, with classes like Dragoon and Samurai being the top of the meta. I'll be going more in depth with Ironlight's balance issues in a future video, but for now all you need to know is that the game currently has a good amount of balance issues that haven't been addressed for a while. So how can we fix this issue of balance? Well, the best way is to simply make balance changes more frequently. When balance goes unchanged for too long, the game grows stale and classes are forever seen as too powerful or too weak. With more frequent balance changes, players are going to get a more refreshing feel when returning to the game. Now, obviously with only one developer, balance changes won't be happening that frequently, but maybe changes on a bi-monthly schedule could work. So the next possible issue on why pros are leaving Ironlights is because of the current meta. Now, this issue could probably fall into the same category as balance, but there's some points I want to state here that are exclusive to the meta only and wouldn't really fit in with balance. So the current Ironlights meta is in a really weird place. There's a couple classes that can dominate with ease, such as Samurai, Reaper, and Dragoon, but there are also classes that fall short from that milestone and can't really keep up when used with the same effort. What this means is that players will almost always go for the easier, more powerful class rather than the high effort classes. But the main problem with the meta is how players are using said classes. So if you haven't noticed, feints have become the #1 go-to move in Ironlights, and other moves have too, such as windmill, voodoo, and any other ways players or pros can abuse the physics of a class. So in pro play, it's gotten to a point where each fight has become a matter of who can come up with the fastest way to refresh their weapon and get around defense. But on paper, this doesn't sound like much of an issue, but seeing it in action makes for a really unfun experience depending on the moves that are being used. A lot of the meta moves will involve making the opponent guess on which direction you're going to hit them and then quote-unquote brute forcing through defense. So many pros favor the old meta of simple sword fighting, but the meta has evolved and the old meta isn't coming back anytime soon. I've definitely noticed this in matches, and a lot of matches, players end up always going for windmill moves or voodoo moves or just trying to refresh as fast as they can, which I don't blame them for, but it gets to a point where it's an annoyance and it's not really fun to play anymore. So, how can we fix this problem? Well, I'm going to be honest here, there isn't much that can be done to fix the meta. As balance changes are made, pro players will always find ways to abuse the changes in their favor. And the current meta shows that in a way that we've never seen before in Ironlights. I'm sure that you've been seeing players using the meta to their advantage and using classes like Dragoon or Samurai to the fullest extent. Perhaps balance changes to some abusive methods can be made and a refresh delay window can be added, but other than that, there aren't many solutions to our meta problem. Alright, so the next issue I want to talk about is, surprisingly, the community. Now, from my experience, the Ironlights community has always been great. I enjoy talking to community members and sharing my experiences, but there's a few problems that I want to point out. The community recently has grown a silent toxicity, which essentially means that people are becoming toxic but not making it obvious. I'm sure that this is just a matter of in-game toxicity and not toxicity in the entire community itself, but it seems like the community may have had a significant impact on pros leaving the scene. I think the Ironlights community is great, but it looks like the community has some work to do. Finally, the last possible reason on why pros are possibly leaving Ironlights is surprisingly because of nostalgia. This last point, it's kind of a long shot, but it makes sense in a way, so hear me out. Most of the pro players who left have played Ironlights all the way back to June 2020 or even before that. As for any game with veteran players, veterans will eventually leave the game and after a while just move on. When the game changes so much to a point where it doesn't feel the same, players are bound to go, which is just how it is. Personally, I love the old Ironlights. It was simple and straightforward, but now the meta is new and classes have shaked things up. But I'm sure that I'll be sticking around for the foreseeable future. Anyways, that's all I have for today. Let me know what you think in the comments and make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. I'm Sync, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.